Okay, in this short video, we're going to look at Math 31, Section 6.3, which covers solving percent problems with equations. All right, what you need to know in this section is how to translate these words. And the first word that you're going to have to know is the equal sign is translated with the word is. So we'll put an equal sign where it says is. And the of means multiplication. Now there's a number of ways that we can show that multiplication, but it'll always be multiplication where it says of. The other thing you need to know is that when it gives you a percentage, you have to convert it to decimal by moving your decimal 2 places to the left. So currently it's behind the 5, and when you move it to the left 2 spots, you get 0.45. All right, so let's fill in the rest here. So 45% of 620 is equal to what number? We'll put an unknown or an X where it says what or what number. All right, so on your calculator, if you just type 0.45 times 620, you get an answer of 279, and that's the value you're looking for. Okay, so here's another example of it. 60%, you move your decimal 2 places to the left. The other way to do that is to treat this percent sign as a command, divide by 100. So just say 60 divided by 100 on your calculator, and you'll get this 0.60. Translate the of as a multiplication. I'll do a center dot this time. And the what number, that's X. Then we have the is, and that's your equal sign, and the 72. Now to counteract multiplying by 0.60, you divide by 0.60 on both sides, and that will cancel it off and leave you with the X that you're looking for. And so X is equal to 72 divided by 0.60. Your calculator will tell you that's 120. Okay, example C. We're translating again, and the trick here is to get all this in the right order. So you look for the equal sign first. That's what I usually counsel. And you can see there's a 4.8 on the left side of that equal sign. Now, another thing you need to know here is when you're looking for the percentage, you should not use X, use P. The reason I want you to do this is so that you'll recognize these problems. They have an extra step at the end. Okay, of means times, and 32. Now we're trying to unbury this variable, P. So we'll divide both sides by 32 to cancel it off that side. We don't want it over there. And we have P equals 0.15. Your calculator will tell you that if you type 4.8 divided by 32. Now here's the extra step. When it's a percentage, you have to convert back into percentage format by moving your decimal to the right and restoring the percent sign. So hopefully you remember the little mnemonic device I had. If you restore the percent sign, you move your decimal to the right. If you lose the percent sign, you move your decimal to the left. You hopefully caught that alliteration there. Okay. What percent of 80 is 68? The equal sign is the is. So we have a 68 on the right of it. And on the left-hand side, we're looking for percent. Remember to use P when you're looking for percent. And what percent of is the times, of 80 is 68. So now we want to get the variable by itself by eliminating this 80. Divide both sides by 80 and it'll cancel off here, and you get P equals 68 divided by 80 is 0.85. And since you're converting this back to percent format, you restore the percent sign by moving the decimal to the right. 85%. 2 spots to the right. Okay. 42.56 is 38% of what number? So is, that's the equal sign. 38%, that's 0.38. And once again, the percent sign can be interpreted as dividing by 100. So 38 divided by 100 if you're not secure with moving your decimal in the right direction. Of means times. I'll put a little dot there, but I don't really need it because I just put the X up against it. It means the same thing. All right, we'll divide by the number that's in front of the X. You want to cancel that off. And you have to do it on both sides, matching actions. This time it cancels here, and we get an X on the right. It doesn't matter whether it's on the left or the right. And when you do the division on the other side, you should get 112. Hopefully you're doing this with your calculator as I do it on this video. Okay, 6.5%. Let's rewrite that as 6.5%. Fractions are, if you just take 1 divided by 2 on your calculator, you'll see that that's 0.5. So then it'd be 6.5%. And you slide your decimal 2 spots to the left to get this value. Of what number equals 20 or is 20.8? The equal sign and the is are the same thing. Divide this both sides by 0.065, and that'll help us cancel it off and leave us with just the x. So, yep, they cancel. The reason they cancel is dividing a number by itself always gives 1, and multiplying by 1 is harmless, or you can ignore it. So you get x over on this side. If you prefer to put a 1 there, that's fine. But on the other side, when you divide 20.8 by 0.065, you get 320. So these answers aren't intuitive. You've got to get your calculator involved, okay? All right, 0.3 is 12%. Let's write it as a decimal. You always write it as a decimal in these problems. Of what number? So now we're going to divide both sides by the one that's bothering us in front of that x. In other words, we're going to divide by 0.12. And canceling that off was our goal. So now we're just left with x. And if you take 0.3 divided by 0.12, you get 2.5 on your calculators. Okay, example H. 6.6 is 8.25% of what number? So 1/4, you take 1 divided by 4, you'll find out that's 0.25. So this is 8.25%. And now we slide the decimal 2 places to the left. You'll see that show up in a minute here. So let's go to the translating stage. Is, of, and let's fill in the numbers. 6.6 is 8.25%. Now we're going to switch the decimal 2 places to the left when we lose that percent sign. And of what number? So you have to divide both sides by 0.0825. And cancels off this side. We wanted that to happen. Now we just have the x. And on the other side, 6.6 divided by that 0.0825, your calculator will display 80. Okay. We're down to the last 3 or 4 here, so we're getting close. 18.9 is what percent of 140? Let me reiterate that when you're looking for the percentage, you want to use a different variable name. And that's to remind you that you have an extra step at the end. Okay, so let's get this going here. 18.9 is what percent of 140? And we'll divide both sides by whatever it takes to get the variable p by itself here. So in this case, 140 on both sides. And that cancels off because it gives the number 1, and 1 times p is just the number p. And on the other side, the division gives 0.135. Now, this is a percentage, so you have to convert it to percent, restore the percent sign, and that moves it to the right. Restoring moves to the right, losing moves to the left. So move your decimal 1, 2 spots to the right, and you end up with 13.5%. Okay, we have, like I said, let me see how many more. This is 3 slides total left here. Okay, what is 36% of 240? What is 36% of 240? Now, we don't have any work to do over here. It's just got the x. So all you have to do is take 0.36 times 240, and you get your answer of 86.4. Now, these last 2 problems really are just gearing up, reviewing something we've already learned, how to solve a proportion. And the next section solves some of these same problems with percentages in a proportion format. So just to cover quickly, a proportion is when you have one fraction equal to another fraction. And the way you do it is by cross multiplying. So we're going to multiply those two, and these two. And that's how you start the problem. So 8 times x equals the downhill direction 24 times 5. You'll see that that's 120 if you do it yourself. Okay, we divide both sides by 8 here. And that tells us that x is equal to 15. Pretty easy problem. All right, in the next one, we're going to say downhill first. Multiply and you get 25 times x. When you multiply 3 times 9 in the other direction, you get 27. And we want to divide by the coefficient of the x, in other words, that 25. So we get an answer of x equals 27/25. This can't be simplified, but you can write it as a mixed number. You can also take 27 divided by 25 on your calculator and type the decimal, or write down the decimal version of the answer. Okay, so that does it for section 6.3, solving percent problems by translating.